views and opinions expressed on this show do not reflect that of the staff and management of WNOV and W293 CX 106.5 FM Courier Communications Milwaukee, but are the sole comments of the host and guest of this particular show.
The views and opinions expressed in this program do not reflect those of Wisconsin Voices. The views and opinions expressed by host and guests are their own, and their appearance on the show does not imply any endorsement or representation by Wisconsin Voices. Thank you for listening to Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices.
Be a voice.
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 Visit WisconsinVoices.org.
Visit WisconsinVoices.org.
Visit WisconsinVoices.org
And learn more on how to be a voice with Wisconsin Voices.
We have tried to communicate. When we talk about elected officials and holding people accountable and things accountable, there was an article in on the paper. Is it today? What's today's date?
The 22nd.
This was in the Milwaukee Journal today about want to know about one of the Milwaukee's biggest landlords, and that's the Housing Authority.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some issues going on with the Housing Authority, and we're not here to criticize, but this is one of those things where community can really put an impact on it. One of the things that the community, their role, and the article says, is they're a landlord. They do the majority of the low income housing for Milwaukee County or the city of Milwaukee. And mostly those are low income elderly veterans and disabled tenants. The second thing that they do is they do renter assistance, and they provide the vouchers. So if you have rent assistance, or what it's called federally Section 8 vouchers or housing or whatever, you usually have to go through the Housing Authority to get your voucher, and to make sure that the inspections are done. And the third is real estate development, which, and I'm going to quote this out of the Milwaukee Journal, is general contracting, providing management and real estate counseling through its development arm. And so they are a huge part of this. About 11,000 people rely on the agency. Mm-hmm. And I'm taking a lot of this out of the Milwaukee Journal, but I have had to deal with it. I know during the pandemic, it was a horrible place to go to, because you couldn't go in to see people, and they were so short-staffed. And I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming anybody. They were so short-staffed that you couldn't, if you called, if you were lucky, if you got a call back in a week. Mm-hmm. It was bad. And there are people who needed to move, who needed to get new vouchers, who needed to get places inspected so they can move in. And it was just harder and harder to get through. And I was helping my parents with their property, and a person that had the voucher tried to move. She wanted to move, and it took forever for us just to get an inspection. And then she ended up missing the inspection because she didn't even know about it. And then she got, taken off. But then we had to help her get put back on. It was just a horrible situation, and there was nothing to do, and nothing you could do in regards to that. It says 6,000 people or 6,000 households receive rent assistance. That's a lot of people. And just think, if you can't get through, if you can't get who you need to get to, how are any of the problems being solved? Some of the major problems, and I'm going back to the article, that Common Ground has been trying to help tenants speak out because of the conditions. Now, all these buildings are relatively old. They were built in the 60s, 70s. You know, there's some properties have just been rebuilt because like West Lawn is now West Lawn Gardens, I think, and they tore it down and rebuilt it. But the majority of these places are old, 60s, 70s, and it was like that. I remember that tower. That tower always reminds me of the Good Times Tower over on what is that street? It's yeah, that one. Yeah, it's Humboldt and Locust, I think. For some reason, it reminds me of the Good Times building. But I have heard people tell me personally that there is an infestation of bed bugs in some of these places, mold.
A couple of them. I know different people live in a couple of
They have roaches, some have rats, and I know Common Ground is trying to do some work to help some of the tenants. They are one of the people who are kind of trying to spearhead a coalition of churches, schools, nonprofits to help the Milwaukee community. So in this article, it also starts to talk about who has oversight over the Milwaukee Housing Authority. And I'm actually going to read this from the article. It's a gray area. It isn't a city agency, but it's not a state or a federal one either. It is an independent corporate entity created by charter in 1944. And most of the oversight comes from the federal government. And then I'm going to read this. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which provides the Housing Authority with the bulk of its funding, conducts routine inspections of the Housing Authority properties and finances. The city of Milwaukee does, however, have oversight in a 7-person board of commissioners. The commissioners who oversee the Housing Authority and its executive team are selected by the city, which is candidates are nominated by the mayor and approved by the Common Council. This is important. I think the director is Willie Hines, and right now there are 3 seats that are vacant as of right now. And Mayor Cavalier Johnson will have to put those names up for nomination, and the Common Council will approve them. Remember when we've been talking about the power of a vote? Because the mayor, whoever you put, remember we were talking about it, that he has the authority to do some of these appointments. But even if you don't like the appointments or you don't think that they're going to do a good job, you talk to your alderperson, because your alderperson can vote against it or try to get people on the side of your side, because he has to speak for you, or he or she has to speak for you. And that is how your voice is heard. Now, if you are concerned about this, start calling your alder people. Start calling the mayor, saying what can be done about this. He hasn't appointed anybody yet, but obviously they just got sent. He just got, he just got sworn in last week again. But this is something that you can definitely do. 414-444-5250. We'll take callers, comments, questions. But these agencies and some of these committees, The mayor puts people on it. The common council controls who they approve to be put on there. You do have a voice, and you have to start calling your council people. You have to start talking to your elected officials. Toya,
Yes.
have you heard about any of this kind of stuff happening?
Oh, definitely. Yes. That's one thing, especially starting falling back to the pandemic. A lot of these I know a lot of people that get Section 8 and rent assistance, and literally houses are and they come out to inspect, are supposed to inspect these houses, and they're supposed to be up to a code before people can even move in, or even if they're living there, they're supposed to have a standard with the landlords where it stay to code. A lot of these houses are ridiculous, are completely ridiculous. And when you mentioned the one on Locust and Humboldt, man, all over the city, Arlington Heights, New Hampton Gardens, it's a lot of these. The one over there on 35th and Highland, it's a lot of these locations. College Courts, yeah, it's a lot of these locations. It's bed bug infested. I moved my mom out of Hampton Garden, which is one of their properties, because it was bed bug infested.
I know that they have gone through. My wife actually works there,
Mm-hmm.
and they just stuck a bunch of money. That they redid everything from top to bottom. They took all of the tenants out, put them up in hotels, and they have totally redone that whole development. So, and I think it's something that's happening in all of the senior buildings
They should,
throughout the city.
because especially elderly, and you can't move around, and you're laying in the bed just getting bit up by these bugs, and half of the people don't even understand or know what kind of, because that's a new peasant. We haven't been seeing that. When we used to say don't let the bed bugs bite, nobody never thought it was really bed bugs. So
Right.
yeah, for real. Because my mom said it. She said, when we used to say that all while we was growing up, don't let the bed bugs bite. And I never thought it was really bed bugs. And it really is. And didn't know it for a while that she was getting chewed up by them, until I was there while she was getting washed up. And I'm like, what is all the little bite marks in? Thing up your arm? And they have like a path, like they just go straight up a path.
Well, I won't. Hopefully I'll never find out about that in true fashion. But
Roach infested. So I'm glad to hear, Debo, that they're actually put the people up in hotels and actually did Hampton Gardens, because I moved her out of there because it was just too much. Like,
but it should never get to that point, I guess.
mhm.
That you have to. There are, I don't know why, and even we were talking about this at my Common Council meeting, or in our meetings, that we are trying to be proactive now, because even half of our city of Glendale has alleys.
Mhm.
The other half, because of ordinances, have only driveways and garages. So sometimes the alleys are forgotten, because majority of it, the older part of Glendale, we have alleys. But the newer ones, they were built with driveways and garages, and they don't have alleys. They don't have, backways. They just have a
Mhm.
yard. And for a long time, we have put off doing maintenance, and we're not bad yet, but it was brought to our attention. Wait a minute, we have to start putting it in our capital 5-year capital plan, to do something to make sure that our alleys are always kept up.
Mhm.
And if we spread it out to do the worst ones first, and then gradually make sure that the maintenance is going on, it will never cost as much as when you have to hurry up and do one.
Right.
That is what I wish the city would do. There's so much that they need to do, but I think we were talking about their alleys. I had one woman call me from the city of Milwaukee to Wisconsin Voices, and she said, I broke my ankle in a pothole trying to go over it and ended up hitting another pothole, a little hole in the thing as she was trying to go over the one pothole she saw.
Mhm.
And then there was a little divot pothole and she ended up breaking her ankle
Mhm.
and she said she called her alderman over and over and over again about it. But the reality is they don't have any money to fix the alley. And so what I was told by city officials when I called to help, asked, how could I help her? Is just make a complaint and then they will at least try to patch that hole up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why not patch it up?
Yeah,
please?
they will try to patch those up when they get those calls. So when you do call the city, when you see these big potholes, because what they can do is at least put like the coal. I forgot what it's called.
Tar.
It's the coal tar or something like that to
Mhm.
try to patch it up. So it's not hurting. But there is a lot of accountability that we are not. We're just not dealing with. 414-444-5250.
I feel like on that same note, I feel like we're not holding them responsible enough because you can go to a lot of different cities within this county and their streets are not half as bad as Milwaukee streets. 20th Street, if that street haven't been done in Lord Jesus, I mean, since I was a kid, it's been lumpy and nothing but potholes and
Are they doing something?
finally doing something
I
to a
thought
part of
they were
it.
doing something from like Locust to North Avenue or something like that.
Mhm.
But I also found the further you get away from the inner city,
The better it is.
the better the roads are.
Mhm.
I don't know if those aldermen are just on point about their districts.
Right.
I mean, because it could be that they are just really pushing it. Those particular aldermen are good at what they do and making sure that their district is covered.
Mhm.
Or is
That's
it-
why I said the holding accountability.
yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta ask people what are they doing. The other article we'll talk just a little bit about is the ousting of the SDC chief executive officer after misallocation of fund allegations. George Hinton, which is a prominent man in our community, I guess he resigned. And I don't know if it was pressure or wherever, but I'm just going to say the fact he resigned. I don't know what the circumstances were, but it is all in regards to the agency not paying some of their workers April 19th.
Mm.
Ooh,
Okay.
how y'all feel about not getting paid?
Not very good. Who would?
Yeah, that's what I
No.
think that is one of the biggest things. I don't care if any other bill get paid, your workers have to get paid.
Yeah.
And
I know one of our partners that worked for SDC and they didn't treat her very well after being there and being supportive and went out on workman's comp and they literally let her go on workman's comp. So no, I don't think their financial offices is being ran right. And I used to work for them. I really did. Well, when Tommy White was, he's no kin to me, but when him and Luella were president, executive director, and assistant executive director, Tommy White was the executive director at the time, and I worked for their energy assistance program. And it was a nice program. It really helped elevate you and move you up. I would hope that we can continue to have their support in the community because they do a lot of good work in the community. But whomever is running their budget right now cannot be doing a good job for employees not to get paid on the 19th. That's just
according to this article, the resignation came after a series of missteps, including misallocation of more than $100,000 and taxpayer funds, resulting in the closure of the weatherization program, laying off of 28 employees, and termination of the finance director. As a result of the agency's failure to pay 19 people on April 15. They don't suspect, from what the article says, they don't think it was deliberately done.
Yeah.
It just might be you mismanaged a budget, but it's not on purpose. But again, when we talk about some of these issues, we have to hold people accountable.
Yeah, because they are right now, they're finna be the one agency that a lot of people are going to want to go to about their energy assistance. So they hold that program.
If you need to and I'll give you the number if you need to complain about a landlord or you need a building inspector to come out, you call the Milwaukee Department of Neighborhood Services at 414-286-2268. When we come back, we're going to talk about something that the Wisconsin Voices is looking into and doing an open records request.
Catch Wisconsin Voices via Voice Radio every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. as we focus on community partnerships, voter education, and long-term collective impact for all Wisconsinites.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices via Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org. Wisconsin Voices 3 pillars: protecting democracy, teaching advocacy, building community.
But he got a real one on that because people sure do pillow talk.
I don't know nothing about that. Wisconsin Voices has done a open records request to the Bayside Dispatch as well as the Whitefish Bay Police Department. I will give you the synopsis of what happened. In late March, there were teenage boys leaving Shorewood. Later found out that they were going to go play basketball at the JCC, but they were leaving Shorewood. They got in a car, and an individual called 911 and said that someone is stealing a car. From what I understand, the majority, it was 4 or 5 boys in the car. I believe there was 4 black, 1 white, or 3 black and 1 white. But it was a majority African American or of a non-white descent.
Do you know what color was driving?
I don't know that. I don't want to speculate on who that was, but someone called. And then because North Shore does kind of a shared services, if they're in the vicinity, they'll take the call. So even though the call started out in Shorewood, there was and it was going right on the border of Whitefish Bay. The Whitefish Bay officer was, I think, leaving Fiddlehead, which is a coffee shop there. Mm-hmm. And he took the call and he followed them for a while until they were stopped by CVS, which is in Whitefish Bay, going into Shorewood on Hampton.
On Hampton, yeah.
And I've talked to our officers, my chief and some other, because it was considered like a felony stop, because stealing cars is a felony, so it's a felony stop. It was, guns out, everybody handcuffed, everybody questioned. The problem is this kid was driving his dad's car and they were going to play basketball. I don't blame the Whitefish Bay Police Department. What I do want to see is what could the dispatch have done so it wouldn't be that. I want to know what questions did she ask to, like my question, and I'm not a trained dispatcher, but my first question, and especially in this environment, I would say, what makes you believe that this car is being stolen? That could be, oh, they just broke the window. Okay, you can get that. They just broke the window. Okay, I can see that. These, from what I understand, they just got in the car. They left from one business and they all jumped into the car. Was it everybody looking around? I mean, what made this individual call 911? And I think having that question asked by the dispatch could have prevented these kids being traumatized. And they literally were, and from what I understand, Shorewood School is kind of outraged about this. I got reached out to by a couple of people in the community where Whitefish Bay won't give answers of why it is, and they can't get any answers. And what they did was they held them at gunpoint, put them on the side, how they got them all lined up on the curb, verified that the car was one of the kids' dads, and said, all right, see you later. And they were gone. But that's traumatizing for the kid. I do not blame the Whitefish Bay Police Department because they really were doing their job.
Right.
And I asked other officers, they kind of said I found two different versions. Some said, yes, that is by the book. One said, well, they weren't speeding. They weren't doing anything. Like if they were stealing a car, there would be some suspicious, kind of dip and dodge. And especially when you got an officer right behind. They weren't going overly slow, but they weren't going overly fast. They were driving normal. So one, from what I understand, and this is allegedly, so it begs to differ. If the dispatch had just asked a few extra questions, could it have been handled differently and the kids not been traumatized?
You know how I feel about that? Because I know the story. We've been working on it. I feel like both, in a way, are held accountable. The officers, not so much as the dispatcher could have asked more questions than it just this person call and saying a car is being carjacked. What do you mean by carjack? What what are you saying?
The car
Yes,
being
stolen. So why do you presume it's being stolen? But then also on behalf of the officers, if they were driving normal, knowing that you're behind them, if they stole a car, first of all, they're automatically going to think they're being chased. Then when you you can't say that the car would have been reported stolen at the time, which is true. It makes sense because this person is calling in saying that they are seeing in the pursuit of the car being stolen, right, at the time that it's supposed to be stolen. So most likely the person wouldn't even know their car was stolen to call it in and report it. But then when you do stop the teenagers, which wasn't going fast, pulled over when you put your lights on and they stop, does it always have to be guns drawn? In that case, in the case of a stolen car and all, I know it's protocol to do far as for the safety of the officers because it's a stolen car. But do we always have to go to the extent of traumatizing?
See that, and
I just feel like they both could have handled it a little bit different.
and that could be the case. I do empathize just a little bit with the officers because they have to follow protocol. and this is a felony stop, and you don't know what people are going to do.
Right.
But one of the officers that I talked to said they probably wouldn't have done it as a felony. They would have been cautious, but would not have done it as a felony stop.
See, that's what an officer said to me as well.
Yeah.
That it wasn't, it didn't bring up much of an alarm to where, now if they were speeding, running lights, things like that, that's totally different. Swerving and driving crazy, if they seen a window broke out, it would be totally different.
Right.
But it's like you had it didn't fit with a car being jacked or car being stolen.
But under the rules and the rules that they are supposed to go by, now they can get in trouble for not following the rules they're supposed to go by if this is a felony stop, and they can get written up for putting other officers in harm's way.
One thing you said, Tamika, that jumped out at me initially was the number of people in the vehicle. That automatically is going to change the way I will approach it, because there's too many for me to have to try to figure out what's going on. You said
that's
like
true.
People in that
It was
vehicle.
like 4 to 5.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people.
That's automatic. When you grew up, we noticed that. First of all, 4 people in the car, take your hats off, sit up straight, put your seatbelts on. Because that right there.
You should have your seatbelt on before you start the car, but
automatically.
So that is why I'm not as upset with the police department
I look at it like
as much as I am. Where is the training for the dispatch? Because if you think about all these calls that are coming in.
Can I share a story with you?
Yeah, please.
I used to work for a liquor company out in Brookfield, and I had this red Geo Prism. Riding down North Avenue. It was right off Barker Road and out in Brookfield. So my car broke down on the side of the road, right there off of North Avenue, right there by that hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And so just so happens that where it broke down at, the officer pulls up. Hey, what's going on? My car won't start, man. It's just quit on. Well, we can't leave it here, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to push you down. Where you say you're going to work? Yeah, I work right over here at Edison Liquor. We're right down the hill here. Okay, so I'll give you a push. We'll get you down and at least get it to your job. And that way you don't have to leave it on the road. You can come back and deal with it later. Officer was great.
Mm-hmm.
So as the officer begins to push me, it's downhill. So the officer lets me coast. Some good Samaritan again calls in. When we get to Barker Road, they got it blocked off. I'm in a high-speed chase, but the car ain't even running. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, and look how that officer helped too.
Yeah.
So it was he was able to,
I was like,
he was able to deter that situation.
Somebody phoned in and said that you were fleeing from me. Man, my car wasn't even running. Yeah, I know. Have a good day. But those good Samaritans, sometimes they are the worst.
But I've also
Ask
heard,
questions like she said.
but I've
This
also heard, we need people to call in stuff.
We do.
We do. We definitely
But they need to be factual to know what they're seeing.
To know what they see and being able to discern, okay, why am I calling? Now, I have and this is just a suspicion, that there were just too many little black boys in one area.
You took the words out of my mouth, just like what happened with you. It was a black man.
I don't
took the words.
Sure, because we haven't gotten the video. And we
I know
don't
you
got
reside
the
there
call.
and you're an older person. I know
You can't.
You knew what
But sorry, I can presume, and I have an opinion that's not the views of Wisconsin Voice. But
and the views and opinions expressed on this show,
on
not those
WN, yes,
It's advertised.
yes, that is true.
Hey, that's my thing. I'm supposed to be doing the disclaimer.
Well, I'm keeping ready to do the disclaimer for you. That is why it went the way it went, because you have a number of young black men, one white young man. Now, had that been vice versa, 3 white young men, that probably would have been taken a little bit different. It definitely.
So you know what it was.
Yeah.
Those 4 black guys made that poor white guy
Mhm.
get in the car and drive them.
They
around.
thought they had kidnapping and everything.
Hijacking.
Wow.
Okay, y'all. Y'all going a little overboard. So, but we're trying to get the information. We have requested body cam,
Mhm.
the whole dispatch encounter, not just
That's what I want to hear is the dispatch encounter. What
yeah,
did this
not
person
just
say?
not just and I'm not talking about just the call, but actually the whole encounter. We're trying to get that now. We will see. We did the request and they will so we did the request, and then eventually what they do is they come back and say this is how much it's going to cost and we're going to pay to get that. And then we'll bring it to you guys to hear. Yeah,
I was finna
for
say, it's a
open
cost?
yeah, open records is a cost. I know, because they have to take there is a cost to it. You have to use material. Like if you want a CD, they'll you pay for the material. You have to pay for the person's time to get it, because that's not in their normal everyday work thing. So yeah, you have to pay. I think City of Morkie as well. And I think it's not just, this is not Glendale. Stop putting us in this. This was not sure. This is Whitefish Bay, and this is the Bayside Dispatch, which is a collective of the 7 North Shore communities. But no, even Glendale does charge for, depending on what it is and how much. It's minimal, I believe, but it's still for the materials. I ain't giving free CDs out. I have to burn it. I have to take time to look for it, and then look. The police department, like if it's, we used to get a lot. The Glendale Police Department used to get a lot of requests for their high-speed chases, and they're all on YouTube. And I don't know, for some reason it was just a lot of requests, and it takes time to put that together. But it baffles me a little bit on how you have to jump through hoops to try to get information, but also just hold people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
This is like something that we've always gone, the police, but wait a minute. If we can do some training before it even gets to a police call to decipher
Right.
what it is, could half of the shootings, half of the stuff that goes on be cut down?
Because that makes me wonder now about a lot of the different shootings and situations. What were those officers told to make the situation escalate to what it did? Not in every case. It's a lot of cases where it wasn't a dispatcher call at all. Call at all. It was the officers encountering them. But what about sometimes when you get a dispatch call, you're not following through, asking real questions? Because if I still want to know, because that young man was driving his father's car. So what made that person think that this was a theft of a car? What made them think that? Is it just because you've seen 4 black boys or and a white boy, or I'm just being serious.
No,
What
and
made
it
them
is.
think that car was being stolen? And dispatch, like you said, I really feel like that's the best solution to it is to really train them to ask tactical questions like, why do you feel like
Right.
this was a stolen car? What were they doing? Did you see what clothes they had on? Just
Did they run out? It's just so many things.
and then teenage boys, they run and play. They all finna go play basketball. Just think about it. They were, Kari, you over there. You a teenage, you a young man. You going to hang out with your friends. Don't y'all sometimes push and fight each other and run around the cars and all that? So you're going to teach young men to don't do that? Because a neighbor see that, they would call the police and say, y'all stealing.
I just hate the fact that the darker your skin, the
higher
The-
risk it is.
the higher risk for your skin color to be weaponized.
Mhm.
It is no matter what, I could be standing right next to a non-Black person, same age, same body type, same knee problems, ailments, whatever, we have the exact same.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be seen as a threat
Mm-hmm.
just because of the melanin.
Mm-hmm.
Please join Wisconsin Voices every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. We will be focusing on community partnerships, voter education, and long-term collective impact for all Wisconsinites.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
The 3 pillars of Wisconsin Voices are protecting democracy, teaching advocacy, and building community. Learn more about Wisconsin Voices and our partners at wisconsinvoices.org. Stay up to date on our community events page and get involved by visiting our donation page.
Let's go back to, I guess, accountability, because I think right now there's going to be committee assignments all over. Glendale just did theirs last week, where I'm sorry to say, I am no longer on the police commission.
Oh, why?
There is,
You choose not to be?
no, I was taken off because even though there was a rule back when I got appointed, they decided to listen to that rule. In 2004, they have determined that older people can't be on the police commission.
Oh.
And that was back in 2004. And I got appointed in 2019. And I was on for 5 years, but all of a sudden the rule just applied all of a sudden. So I was taken off.
Mm-hmm.
I just find it interesting
Me too.
that we were getting ready to hire a chief. And I was, and I can't say yes or no, but I was very much wanting to do a broad look
Mm-hmm.
to see that we got the best person.
Mm-hmm.
Some wanted to keep it in-house. But I also find it interesting that after we voted to to do a external and internal search, after it was known that and I'm just going to this is just all coincidental, they are reconsidering now that I'm off the council.
To do it internal.
And external, yeah. So they're doing a reconsideration soon of that decision.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of these rules be made in that case.
But this is a court decision that, we knew about it, but the person that I replaced on it had been on the commission, I think, since 94 or something like that. And that was a alder person.
So that's been on there for 15 years.
94.
Before you. No, I'm saying the law. 15 years before you even was
it's 20 years old now, right?
Right.
Yes.
So now it's 20 years old, and this is when you decided to enact.
I'm not saying that's the reason. I just think.
Well, like I said, your views and Wisconsin Voice views.
This is. I'm just saying. I just find it, but I'm going to keep doing it because the next thing I'm going to try to do is change the way our Glendale police department works, and I can do that without being on the board.
Mm.
I can do it as an alder person, but that is something that I think the community needs to be part of. It needs to protect the community reputation. Our chief has done a really good job of trying to, we used to have huge, like I said before, we used to have huge stops where people would call, and they've even worked on it a little bit where they say, oh, there's a strange person in front of my house. What are they doing? They just don't look like they should be there.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does they don't look like they should be there? I remember a couple years ago, and I I tell this story all the time because I laugh. It was late. I love to walk. I lived in Platteville for a long time when I went to school there. And so I used to love walking at night, with just a hoodie, and it was just cool enough that you could just take a nice breeze walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that in Glendale too. And it was probably like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I couldn't sleep. Must have been before 11 because the gas station, everything closed in Glendale at 11. But I went to the gas station, went to go get some snacks or something. And I remember I had a hoodie on and I had my hands in my pockets, and I was just walking back, and I only lived like 2 blocks away from the gas station that I went to. And I remember an officer coming behind me, excuse me, honking. And I just kept my head down. And I was like, nope, keep going. And I kept walking. And they're like, excuse me, may I ask, you need help? What are you doing? I was like, nope, keep going. And I remember saying, keep going. And then they were like, well, ma'am, they say, sir, say, obviously I'm in sweat. I turned around and I was like, what? And one of them recognized me as the alder person. Oh, we're just checking because we saw, I said, because I looked suspicious and somebody called and said a suspicious person coming walking down the street. So as the alderwoman and the representative of this district for the Common Council, I can't walk in my block so I look suspicious. And that has happened a couple of times. That happened twice to me. And I don't mean to do it. But I wasn't trying to do it. I got your moments. But even as an alderperson, one time, my niece and her friends were clowning at the ATM. They were actually, they had a good time at the bar. They stopped to my house to go get something, and then they were going to the ATM because they were getting ready to go to Chicago. And Chicago bars don't close until 4:30, 5 o'clock. So they was going to hit Chicago. They had friends there. And she called me, and each of them needed to get money out of the ATM because they weren't planning on going. So she rolls up to the ATM, and all of a sudden I get a call at like 1:30 in the morning. Auntie, your police acting up. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm down the street. I'm at the ATM. They asking us all these questions. So I got out of the bed and I just kind of went through the alley and I just sat there. And one officer said, "Babe, I hope you can go around." I was like, "Oh no, I'm just watching this, my niece. So I'm just watching and hope you guys are doing your job properly." "Oh, no, we got a call saying that there was a disturbance and someone was trying to break into the ATM." Now, here's the thing. The 2 neighbors I know were out of town because, I had a conversation and I know they were going on vacation, and one wasn't even, you saw no lights, no nothing. And they were far enough that I don't even think they heard it. So I'm saying, well, who was the call from? Oh, it's just a call in. Now, I could have asked for the dispatch, but I don't believe there was a call, and I didn't want to get people in trouble. But the problem is, I love that makeup. Well, it's always that excuse. Well, there was something suspicious going on. Yeah, it might look, but what is suspicious about walking on public grounds? Yes, there are people who want to get in trouble when they're doing stuff. So I kind of understand that. We do. But we can't suspect everybody for being part of that or trying to get in trouble.
That's because back in the days, I dreaded to go to Glendale. I had a driver's license, was good, but just knew that the police was going to stop you. And I got stopped there plenty of times. Just, what are you doing over here? Especially when you trying to get into the little shops right there by coming up
Fort Washington.
And say you go, like, you turn out the back, like from where your house is, you turn out the back way back there, and you trying to get around the little streets to get to another one of the shops.
Right.
All them neighbors call like a mug.
And that's where I think our chief
And that's what I was finna say, Tamika, that I feel like since you've been working as an alderman for that district and representing people of color and explaining to those officers different protocols and to be more mindful and better, it has gotten a lot better. Even working with them from when we did the Violence Week, I really enjoyed your chief of police and the officers and the fire department that came out. They were so reasonable, responsible, and respectable. And we had a great time with them, laughing and talking.
When we wanted to do the guns back, we wanted to do a part where we did we're going to be doing it again, but take up back our MKE. And we wanted to do a destroy gun program. And they were like, I said, now there are people who are going to be coming into Glendale with guns to destroy them, to bring them to just get destroyed. And he said, we will work with you. We will not do any stops like that. If there's a big line, we won't take the guns, because the rule is if they take possession of it, they have to send it to ballistics. And we were trying just to destroy them. Mm-hmm. And they said, but we will help you with traffic or anything. So it was like, I'd rather have the guns off the street. Mm-hmm. And that is what their goal was. And so we're always going to try to help make things a little bit better. I'm not saying Glendale is perfect in all shapes, forms, because we've had some issues where, some of our partners even called me, Tamika, get your police. And I'm like, wait, yeah. And then all of a sudden it's my police.
They turn when we call them.
Yeah. But if they do some good, that's Glendale's police part. No, that's Tamika's the police part over there when they do.
You the credit, because that changed a lot from you being there. I have to give you credit on that one.
I will, we will always try to do what's best, and that's why representation matters.
And opinions expressed on this show do not reflect that of the staff and management of WNOV and W293 CX 106.5 FM Courier Communications Milwaukee, but are the sole comments of the host and guest of this particular show.
The views and opinions expressed in this program do not reflect those of Wisconsin Voices, but are those of the host and guests of this particular show, and their appearance on the program does not imply any endorsements or representation by Wisconsin Voices. Thank you for listening to Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices.
Be a voice.
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 Visit WisconsinVoices.org.
Visit WisconsinVoices.org.
Visit WisconsinVoices.org.
And learn more on how to be a voice with Wisconsin Voice.